Welcome to our Finance and Budget meeting. Here we are, it's May 21st, 6 o'clock. Appreciate you guys being here this evening. And all of those folks also welcome who are on live stream. I guess we're live streaming, correct?
Absolutely.
Great. Ms. Silva, would you give us a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor Roddenroth,
Here?
Councilman Brown, all present.
Thank you. Any public comments?
No, ma'am, there are no public comments.
Great, okay. So the first part of what we wanted to do this evening is, and I believe we have a handout for Mr. Brown. So you can make some notes. I don't know if you're going to put it up on the screen also.
Yeah.
You going to put it on the screen, Drew? Yeah. And just page one, I can kind of walk you through the pages.
Is it one proposal, Mr. President, or is it?
It's about a 12-page document,
That's it then.
the whole thing. Something like that. Yeah. We're just going to go page by page. And just to kind of
Is this
get,
gonna be mine?
sure,
Okay.
yeah, so you can make notes.
Actually on another page. Give me a second.
I wasn't sure whose presentation it was.
Go grab me a pencil.
Oh, you need a pencil?
Is that a pencil?
It's a pen. You want an actual
I want a
pencil?
pencil.
Just remember, you kind of have to lean forward when you want to try to change slides.
Okay. The little button right here?
Yes, left or right.
Oh, okay, that's to go forward? Okay, perfect.
Just as soon as we can get it, technology.
Okay, and hopefully you guys can see it.
I have to go up to the screen to read it.
You'll be able to get a copy of it. Y'all be able to get a copy. She's just trying to get a PowerPoint play. So we had our meeting back on May 2nd, was our last meeting that we had, Tony, where Charlie gave to us a schedule of what he was proposing for staffing and salary, okay? So just kind of keep focus on the one slides I'm going through one by one, if you will. And so what I wanted to do, because of the need and the request, is kind of take a look at big picture, okay? So if you go to the first slide.
I'm trying very hard, Madam Mayor. So
Just double click and you have it, she'll tell you which slide. There.
You don't want to go to slide presentation.
Go into the other monitor.
And it wasn't doing it earlier, I apologize.
It's kind of weird. Okay. No, you haven't seen any of it. So I'll walk you through it because this is not what you think you're seeing. I've taken it and everything's all mixed up. That's why I want you to follow me as I'm going through this.
Keeps on putting the actual thing on the left screen and we can't drag it over, it won't let us.
I'm trying multiple ways to make it work.
Madam Mayor, would you mind if I just went and printed 2 more copies?
That's fine. So we don't hold
I
up.
promise you I'm not giving up here.
Okay, so the first slide, what I wanted to do is, because we have to kind of take a look back at where we were before 2024, okay? Where were things last year? So the first slide that I have here is the org chart that we had at that time, which represents about 10 employees. It was really 1 to 2 full-time employees. I'm talking about for City Hall. And then the rest were part-time in a variety of roles. And then the Public Works really hadn't changed at all in any of this. It's 6 employees, 3 full-time, 3 part-time. But basically, it was 10 employees. Now, the request that Charlie had requested to us was to look at your budget should represent, as far as your staff goes, 60% of your payroll should go, 60% of your dollars should go toward payroll, okay? And so it should be like a 60-40 blend, 40% being your expenses, 60% being payroll, to be able to do the jobs that are in front of you. And in looking at that, if we go to slide 3,
Just give me a sec. There we go. Sorry, I found that.
okay, there you go. So slide 3, now these numbers have been provided to me via Miss Marjorie, who's now our accountant, who's gone through all these numbers since January. And what she provided here is, this is the 22-23 numbers. The income showing $1,023,055.23. Expenses, regular expenses were $440,840.41. Payroll was $423,000, 476.10, with a net income of $158,000, $738.72 left at the end of the year. Go to the next slide. What I'm doing is looking at a summary. What does that really mean? Again, I'm focusing on payroll. I'm focusing on a lot of things here. Not only the payroll, and what that just demonstrates, that amount of payroll, $423,000 with that budget, was a 41% of our budget, or of our payroll. Payroll was dedicated out of the budget, not 60% or even 50%. And we had, like I say, 10 employees, 1 to 2 full-timers and 2 to 3 part-timers in City Hall, and 6 for Public Works. We also had maybe 6 events we did last year, okay? And as we all know, there were some things that dropped off toward the mid part of the year. I'm not throwing stones at anyone. I think there was a lot of challenges keeping staffing. It had to do with things like salary. It had, because I know she kept telling me folks were leaving because they weren't getting paid enough money. It could have been a better job somewhere else. It could have been overworked. I know that previous leadership was trying to be a juggler, doing a lot of things. Typically in this type of setup, it's not really supposed to run like that. You should have specific people doing certain roles. And it's unfortunate that we didn't have the staffing to support those needs, because I think the job was done the best that they could do. Okay, but due to that lack of coverage and support, we had a failure in things like maintaining our agendas, our minutes, our website, lack of follow-up on phone calls, lack of email follow-up, somebody at the front desk. There was a variety of challenges. Not to include, we didn't have events that we could offer because we didn't have staffing that could support them. So that's kind of a failure to the community, because I think the community wants us to do things. They want events. And, I think that we have to look at how can we do a better job and fix that, if we can. Are there ways that we can figure that out? And this situation kind of gives us an opportunity to see what that might look like. So here we are, the next slide, 2024 and beyond. Right now, as you all know, we have a fair amount of projects. I mean, I've been mayor only for 1 year, but I was also on the commission for almost 4 years. And I don't think I've ever seen this lineup of projects in my time here. And I know that we'll be doing our strategic planning and all to kind of figure out if we're going to keep some of them, if we're going to shut the door on some of them, but we have to address them, right, and come up with plans. Additionally, we have a fair amount of events that we've asked Charlie and his team to support. And guess what? That takes bodies. It takes people calling. It takes people on the computer. It's a lot involved. Just look at the Florida League of Cities, that event. It turned out amazing, but look how many people were involved in trying to pull that off. And it was really well done. A lot for us to be proud of. So, I feel that, I think cities that do this and do it successfully, they get the right team and they get the right mix of folks who help them to do those things and support it. So without a doubt, I think that we do have to look at the staffing and what the needs are So in the next slide, May 2nd, and this is the chart you're talking about, Tony, that Charlie gave us. All I did was reinvent it to look at a little different view, but it's the same exact setup that he gave to us. It was for 14 employees. This budget is, what I did on the budget is based on what Marjorie provided to me. I took it was the 1 million, I have the number here, 1,023,55 and 23 cents. The difference in that from the year before of 21 and 22 was only a 6% difference. So I added 6% to look like what we think is the best estimate for this year, because we couldn't monetize exactly what that specific number is at this moment. So I'm using the $1,084,438.30 as my number that we're looking at for this fiscal year as our budget number. So looking at the 60/40, I have looked at, as Charlie shared with us, what he would like to see, which included admin, clerk, HR, front desk, full-time. Well, that was, I think, a part-time position. Yeah, it was like, full-time, 3, it was 5, I think 5 full-time. Anyway, it was 8 people for City Hall and then 6 folks for Public Works, 14 employees. Go to the next slide. This is the exact spreadsheet that Drew brought to us on that afternoon, on that Friday, that had been kind of adapted, if you remember that, Tony. What I've done is I've taken these exact numbers and transferred them to be a much easier view. Some of the columns are missing only because it's easier to look at it, but the numbers are correct. When you look at the annual base salary and then the annual with benefits, I've taken all the benefits and made sure they have been added correctly to each column, so they are reflected clearly in what he shared with us. So on the yellow side is what was current, and on the red side is what he was proposing based on the org chart. Ask any questions if we're moving along here, if I'm going too fast. So in looking at this number, and I know we were both a little kind of like, okay, I'm not comfortable with this, it's a lot of money. I wanted to take a much deeper dive, which is what I promised to do. I wanted to also understand precisely what everything meant, like I saw some of these salaries. And so when you go down to the notes here, when I look at where it says total includes FRS option, so Charlie has found out that, we are eligible for the Florida retirement program, which he's going to apply to get for employees, which is a huge benefit. Also, he was asking for 80-hour employees to be on a 1-year contract. Additionally, this was effective July 1. All salaried employees would be $844 per pay period, which is a minimum of $22.10 per hour. And I'll talk to that here in a minute. So so that really did jack the salaries up quite a bit for some of these positions. And what we are looking at here, what he was proposing, based with benefits, I had to include benefits because you want to look at worst case scenario if it's going to come out of our budget. And it comes out to $708,394.71. So the ask is like $136,309 additional over what was being spent on the columns in yellow. When you go to the next page, again, this is best estimates, and this is also provided by our accountant. I'm looking at the number here to the right for the income being $1,884,438.30. I used the standard expenses, which were used last year. It could be a little more, it could be a little less, but I'm trying to be consistent with the number. $440,840.41. Payroll cost of $708,394.71 is what was asked. That leaves us at a negative number of $64,796.82. Now that is demonstrates, if we go to The next slide, which is a summary, is demonstrating a 65% of our payroll. So when I looked at this, and again, I'm looking at 43% increase in events, not to mention projects, which is also a big deal. I'm looking at staffing, the amount of staffing, and I'm seeing the thing that's glaring at me the most, of course, not only the dollars, but also the 65%. How do I get that number down below 60%? So that's what I'm chasing here. It has nothing to do with any position specifically. It's just how do I get that number down? We go down to the next sheet, and I started out by saying, okay, I need to sit down and better understand. We had our meeting here on the 2nd. We had that meeting on the 2nd. On the 6th, we had our council meeting. We decided to table the decision till we got a little more information. I came in and met with Charlie and our accountant to review deeper details, which she gave me all the numbers that I'm sharing in this presentation. I also had another call with our accountant to further confirm details. On the 15th, I met with Charlie again to review this analysis and to consider this option that I'm going to share with you here in a minute. I've also had several calls with our city attorney. Additionally, Mr. Million has come back to us about our questions about the cemetery fund. And we can talk about that because it is also possibly an option. We don't have to take that option if we don't want to, but it is an option. So those are some things that I've done in the last 15 days, just so you know that I've done my homework, I feel very confident with what I'm going to share with you all. So if you go to the next page, so I'm calling it option 1. So basically what I did here is I removed the part-time front desk position, the part-time admin clerk HR position, therefore leaving 5 full-time for the city hall and 1 part-time, which is the fiscal clerk, is the part-time. Again, the public works guys there will be no changes. Taking those 2 positions out pulls out right about $59,207.75. This gets us down to around a 58% number, so below the 60%. If you go to the spreadsheet that's showing the blue, again, here's the yellow, the current. The blue is what my option is after I've done all the analysis. So I have looked at the salaries. As you remember, I mentioned previously about the law becoming for salaried employees, July 1 being $21.50 an hour or something like that, right? So what I found out is in order to qualify for that, there's certain criteria, and one of them requires that you are a manager. Well, no one in this list is a manager status, except for Charlie, Stephanie, or Kenny, period. So they are considered exempt employees. Everyone else would be considered non-exempt. When that happens, it allows us to adjust the salary down. And I'll be honest with you, the standard rate of pay today, as of July 1, is around $13 an hour in the United States for standard hourly pay. So when I look at $15 an hour, $19 an hour, $20 an hour, that's pretty reasonable salaries, I think, to offer for the roles in our area here. For the jobs. Also, it allows for a range that could be offered down the road for growth and experience and things like that. So I did take the salaries down a little bit on some of them. I did remove the 2 positions. I also felt that I wanted to give our public works guys a 3% increase of pay for standard cost of living, because I don't think that's happened in a very long time, and I think they deserve it. So these numbers that I'm showing here reflect all of that. When you do the math and you bring it down, it shows us providing, given Charlie and his team, it's 5 full-time employees, 1 part-time, 3 part-time public works guys, and 3 full-time public works guys. And with their benefits and the 3% raise for the public works guys, it comes out to $625, $814, $22. And so really the ask is $53,728 is the additional funding to be asked for over what, you saw previous on the slides before. We go to the next slide, and you look at the big number there, the $1,084,438, and we take out our expenses, we take out the payroll. We're at $17,000 that's at the end of the year. Now again, this is the option, and that's with the cemetery workers' salary included, okay? If we are to take that salary out of that cemetery fund, which we do have permission to do, then that number becomes $70,000. But that's a choice. It's an option that we can consider. The money is there, and it's there to be spent if we choose to go that route.
I have a question.
Sure.
On that, as a cemetery manager, he's not strictly going to be in the cemetery. So if his time is spent doing what they do in the mornings, so picking up trash and stuff like that, is that $30,000 to cover everything, where you don't take it out of different departments?
So we have tremendous latitude and flexibility with the cemetery funds. Mr. Million, who the mayor mentioned, is the auditor. So
This is,
I sent him over and just real simple questions. I'm like, can we, because in my head, just like any other government entity, we have public works workers that are city employees. You could just call Aramark or somebody, some company, and totally task all that out. But you would still need a cemetery manager because you own a cemetery. You would still need an airport manager, even if you went for outside services for anything else. So I think it's very fair to use the cemetery fund for the cemetery manager. You don't have to. And every government job I've ever had and every job description I've ever written has other duties as assigned. So I'm not saying he's going to sit at the cemetery and twiddle his thumbs when he's not doing other things. He's still going to continue code enforcement work and do that work. But the cemetery, what I truly believe is we haven't accurately accounted. Like last year, I think 12 or 13,000 went out of the cemetery fund into the general fund. The year before it was 4-something thousand. So whichever way we do it, we need to be fair to the cemetery fund. And if like 3 of them were out there for quite a while today, it's summer, the grass is growing, right? So we one way or the other, we have to account for that. I think it's fair to either have the cemetery fund, which between the checking accounts and the CDs, you're up to $490-something thousand. The idea was never to have a big squirreled away whatever. As plots sell off, that will diminish over time. You have a very experienced public works director at the top of the salaries and pay schedule that has announced he wants to retire next summer, so he won't even make it through the next budget year. So I don't see us landing in the red, is what I shared with the mayor earlier. But all the numbers that she has used, she got directly from reports run out of QuickBooks. They're all accurate. So I think I appreciate it. I want to thank you publicly. It's a very accurate assessment of where we are. But to your question, if I've answered it, the cemetery fund, we could pay him entirely out of it for the year. We could keep them writing on their time cards each time they go out there. But we don't have to nickel and dime ourselves with the time cards if we don't want to. We do have flexibility.
So the auditors now, and I might not understand this, but the auditors always told us that we had to account for whatever, if they're in the cemetery, that has to come to bookkeeping for salaries. If they spend an hour out there, 10 hours out there, then that money from the cemetery enterprise fund goes back to the general fund to pay part of their salary. So is that not what he's telling us we have to still do? I mean, my thing is that they're in the cemetery, and I'm sorry, I'm old school, but I've been around too long. But
That's okay.
it's the thing, how we've always done it. If we're gonna change it, and if he's all right with it, he's the one who tells us, he's the one who slaps us on the other hand.
Yeah, that's why I wanted him to give us
So-
in writing.
Yeah, so I have all that in email traffic.
So, but my thing is, explain, I mean, my mind needs to understand that he's telling us that if our public works goes out to the cemetery now and spends hours out there weeding and whatever, cutting grass, they're not gonna be required to account for their hours?
No, that wasn't part of our conversation. What I asked him was, we do have a cemetery. Can we have a cemetery manager paid solely out of the cemetery fund? The answer to that was yes. The caution was, make sure it's reasonable based on other Florida cemetery managers. So, I've looked out to see other cemeteries, similar sizes. So what the mayor's proposing we pay him is very much in line with what other cemetery managers are making. It isn't, like during the winter, obviously, it takes a lot less time than it does right now for the next several months.
He's the one that's gonna be responsible to meet families,
Yes.
walk the graves, and.
Yeah, he will continue to do all that is the way my head works unless he just.
I didn't realize he did all that.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
He has
Yeah.
a very,
It's great.
Nobody's around.
Yeah.
Mr. Cole has a very good demeanor with everybody, code enforcement and cemeteries. Got the right personality to do that.
Yeah, it's
All
great.
right, that position, I'm still got some issues with, not issues, but questions, is, so the cemetery fund is going to pay his salary for being the cemetery manager. But he's also got other responsibilities in the city as code enforcement and stuff. Is that $30,000 or whatever it is for his salary as a cemetery manager, is that coming, his code enforcement time and everything else comes out of that $30,000 that the cemetery's paying?
The proposal you're looking at doesn't take anything out of the cemetery
No.
fund other than what we're traditionally
I
doing.
purposely, purposely did
with-
not.
Per hour.
No, I purposely kept that position coming out of the general fund because I knew it was a concern and I wanted to get confirmation from him before I would even consider the cemetery fund. I'm just saying it's an option if we decided to go that route, to take it out of the cemetery fund. So what it would do is, this is with him included in the general fund with everyone else. If we take him out, it's around 70,000 is the end of year income. And if we put him into the cemetery fund, the general fund end of year becomes 70,000 because his salary is like 57,000 and something.
We're not obligated to change it, but we have much more flexibility.
We have an
than what
option
we've
if we
used.
decided to do that. So we go to the next page, and again, this is similar that you saw on the others. So out of the general fund, at $1,084,438.30, taking out expenses of $440,841.41, payroll of $625,814.22, gives you a net income of $17,783.67. This gives you, City Hall would have 6 employees, which includes 5 full-time, 1 part-time, 6 employees for the Public Works, 3 part-time and 3 part-time, 3 full-time. That gives us 58% of our budget is spent on payroll. So I'm under that 60%. We're pretty darn close to it, I think. It also gives our Public Works guys a 3% increase in their salary and support for the 43% increase in events that we have on the plate right now. Not to mention the events. Any questions so far, Tony, that you have beyond?
Yes, okay, you've got 5 full-time employees, so we've got a front desk person,
Full-time, yes,
executive assistant, event planner,
full-time,
project manager.
yes. So you're looking at the area in blue on the spreadsheet. I've got the full-time on the top, and you can see the mark. The only part-time would be the fiscal clerk, 50 hours.
All right, physical clerk being as,
Accountant, Marjorie,
Mark?
yeah. I think it's Marjorie. I don't know if you're gonna have somebody else or not. Yeah,
I used to know a lady renting from the Marguerite, that's why I always call her.
yeah. She probably think it's okay.
Yeah. The project manager is Bo.
That's kind of the role I have been working in, yes, sir.
You good? Okay, and what I want to add here is, I feel it's really important. We don't have enough people to have what we call an HR department. I know a lot of cities do, but we really just don't have enough folks to do that. So I requested that Charlie take the lead and own HR. And what I've asked is to review and update all of our HR policies and procedures, to develop job descriptions and pay scales for each role, to create performance appraisal documentation and timeline schedules for each employee. I think the goal needs to strive for the best employer for the city and ensure staff retainment and partnership with the community. I think it's important, it's an important image, and I think longevity with staff speaks volumes. I think a lot of companies lead with that. And when you can say you have some real long timers, it says a lot. And I know that it takes some special folks to work in this kind of environment, but I think that once you get them, they love it. Because it is so unique. It is really unique, it's special. And Charlie has certainly agreed to do that. I think with your skill set, I think that you're the right guy to be able to do that for us. And I think it'll be a real helpful thing for our City Hall. Any other questions? Yeah? Okay. So I guess what we will do then is we're going to have another workshop, and then on the 28th, that I talked about?
From today at 1 p.m. this
Mhm. And I guess what we'll do then is share this also with the rest of council. Is that what that workshop's for? I'm trying to remember.
Right, well,
I'm trying to.
we had it on as a discussion/action item for the May 6th meeting, and I asked to pull it till everybody could get confident and comfortable with it, and I think you've reached that level. Mr. Brown can tell me now or later if he's reached that level, but the whole purpose, if I understand it correctly, of Budget and Finance is to make a recommendation to the full council. But I think since we don't quite have the full council here tonight, another session with everybody present would certainly be helpful.
I
Let everybody
just want to make sure
continue to-
everyone's comfortable. The reason I put the level of work into it is I really want to turn it inside out, and just with my lens on it, and understand it, and then ask a lot of folks for their input so I could really see what I'm looking at. Because it's a lot of information, it's a lot of data, and I've come up with what I think is a good solution. And we can do this for a year, and if it doesn't work, we can always do something different. That's the way we have to look at it, because things do change, and like you said, we may not have as many projects going on a year from now, so that may change. That whole position may change. And, that's the beauty of this is it can be a flexible situation. So, and if it's not working with our finances, then we definitely have to make a change.
And to say that, is that the reason why you're wanting to go with like a yearly contract? So does that mean all employees are going to be underneath a yearly contract to be reviewed
No,
at the end?
no. The yearly contract thing was, when we talked about that, this was that whole thing about the non-exempt versus exempt,
Right.
and the $844 a pay period.
Right.
That situation requires that they have manager criteria in their position. So we're not nobody really qualifies for that, really, except for 3 employees. Yeah, I mean, we'll still pay overtime if that comes up, but if it comes up, it comes up, so. And it just gives us a little more flexibility with the salaries. And honestly, I think the salaries are pretty decent for a small town, you know? But Charlie's gonna also come up with he had initially a pay scale for each type of role, so he's just gonna work with that to kind of match, kind of like what the guide is that I'm suggesting as a starting point, and then as they move up, as a pay range, so.
Okay, you had told me a week or two ago that council needs to make a decision on these positions that you've got in the way of their salaries and stuff.
So
Is
that,
that something that we still need? I don't even have a microphone on. Is that something we still need to do,
well, I think. I
before
need-
the budget, or are we putting this into our new budget for the
Well,
next budget year?
If I can at least get some consensus or vertical head nod that the dollars and cents the mayor has presented is palatable, then I'm gonna take the numbers that she used and produce a salary schedule. What I need to be able to run an HR department is a salary schedule, because you won't have all the same people all the time. So if somebody very inexperienced comes in,
Right.
they're gonna make less. Somebody very experienced comes in, they'll make more. And then a job description that actually reflects, I think I owe that to the council, of what people are actually doing. You have a couple dozen, I think, job descriptions. Some of them are very, very outdated. And so what you're doing in 2024 is different than what you were doing 5, 10, 15 years ago. So I think I owe that to the employees for the council to adopt job descriptions and a salary schedule. And the salary schedule can be an allocation document, which is basically what you've produced with the org chart. So many of these at full-time, so many of these at part-time. And then with all that, council adopts that June 2nd. Then I feel like I would be a good steward of everybody's time to go back and rewrite the personnel policy, rewrite the finance policy to reflect this general direction, and then I think we're off to the races.
Okay. So then what we'll do is meet with council. I just want to make sure that all of council is on board with the plan. And then we can go to vote in June, at the June meeting.
Okay. And that, our other workshop is May the 28th? Did you
Yes.
say?
28th, I believe.
At
1 p.m. Yeah, so a week from
next Tuesday.
today,
Next Tuesday.
next Tuesday, 1 p.m., and I think that'll be a great chance for everybody to absorb it, ask questions. If anybody wants to come in, ask questions in between time, give me a call, just make sure I'm not up in North Clay County or Jacksonville or somewhere else doing something else with the people I do it with, and I'd be happy to go over it again.
Okay, one thing I think we need at that meeting is to know when, you know, I think you might have to get, unless you already know, you might have to get with Rich. We need to know the dates that when we bring up the millage, which I'm pretty sure it's in the June meeting, to
I think you're right.
vote on what we're gonna do. We're gonna go stay the roll, we're gonna do the rollback, we're gonna stay where we're at, we're gonna go up on the millage. And, but we gotta have our timeline, so everybody, because we got new people, and we need to know when those dates that we have to be here as a council to vote on these things. And that also, and you know this, that we can't meet the same day as the school board or the county commissioners. So.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right, it was June.
Hmm?
But I think you're right, it was June,
Yeah,
seems like.
and then there's meetings that during the summer that when we build ourselves up to that September is to, when you have the script, you have public hearings, and the mayor has to read a script. You have to read a part of the script, and then we go from there. Well, I'd like to see those dates, just so I can make sure I'm here.
All right.
Do you see anything different that you would have
Mm.
attempted,
Oh, no.
or that you thought could have been done?
Thank God in all my years, I've depended on people that are a lot smarter than me that does this kind of stuff. I don't. I'd rather look at it and have, I'll go back over it, which I don't think I'll have any questions. I'm
Okay.
pretty well self-explanatory.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good plan, and I'm excited to see, I'm very excited to see the events and the projects, things that we're hopeful as a council to see happen, and just see where it goes, you know? And I know the community is excited as well, so I think we're all in it together. Okay, I guess we're done. Any more questions?
Did we already cover give general budget guidance? Is
Well, this is
that's it?
that's about 60% of it. If you're good with this model,
Okay.
then
It was important to kind of get through this part.
Then I know that. The other piece I'd like to go over with everybody is the what's in the banks, what's in CDs, what's in infrastructure, or excuse me, public fund checking, which all those funds, almost $400,000, have to be obligated. I want to, don't hold me to the years, I think obligated by 2025 with some vague project descriptions, and then expended by the end of 2026. So I mean, there's just a lot of pieces to it. You have unrestricted funding like the general fund, restricted funding, and you've got a little over $3 million in the bank for a $1 million recurring budget, so.
But that's good.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
And
wonderful.
that's actually,
It's
that's in
wonderful. The
these
worst thing to
slides.
have is
that-
if we had a
Yeah.
$3 million a year budget and $1 million.
Yeah.
We're sitting good financially. You're very sound.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Okay,
All right. Are you
We're good.
done? Okay, I got something to go over real quick. I've already talked to our management team this morning. I'm gonna step down from finance and budget.
okay. I can't hear you. Sorry.
I'm going to step down from finance and budget.
Mhm.
I've done it for quite some time.
Mhm.
I've already let everybody know that I have no interest in running again for city council. And I give somebody a chance to come in and learn the ropes. And it's I'm not gonna blame it on my business, but I am very busy.
Mhm.
And when we have meetings during the day and stuff like that, I'm just not gonna be able to be here. So if I remember right, you as the mayor appoint committees, and this is the only committee we have on the
Mhm.
council. So I would say in our June meeting, you'll need to appoint somebody to take my place.
Okay. Well, we appreciate everything you've done. I know you've done it for a long time. I don't know how you've done it so long.
I don't either.
But certainly do appreciate it very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we are adjourned.